Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Good morning and welcome to Room 442. Sharman Singh, Vitania and Pararia here with you. Another busy weekend. And let me ask you a question, everyone. If I told you back in August that by the end of the season, Frank Lampard is coaching Chelsea, what would your reaction be, Albert?
No way this would ever happen ever again. How is Frank Lampard back at Chelsea? An unsuccessful manager who was unsuccessful at Chelsea, unsuccessful at Edmonton, unsuccessful at Derby is now back at Chelsea for the rest of the season, but not
unless they fire him before then.
That's ridiculous.
It's Todd Bowley.
Yeah.
They might. So Chelsea playing Wolves, of course. Earlier this week, Frank Lampard comes back, the prodigal son, to steer the ship to maybe the Champions League. They're playing, of course, Real Madrid in the quarterfinals. Maybe a top 10 finish for Chelsea. It's been a crazy year, Sarah. But honestly, the more I think about this, the more it kind of makes a little bit of sense. Do you see any sense in this? Or is it just Todd Bowley's maniacal meanderings once again?
From a logistical perspective, I don't see how this is sensical. Because as Albert mentioned, he's a proven failed coach. I don't think he's a good manager whatsoever. We've seen it, but I know what you're going to say is that because he's so respected at Chelsea, because he's a legend at that team, will he be able to get the respect of the players in, that changing room? Because that locker room is several, big-headed kind of players and whatnot. So maybe he could be the guy that could round them all up. And, the fans will probably get behind him because it's Frank Lampard.
It's a valid point, though, Mikey. I mean, listen, it is Frank Lampard, and you're right. He failed as a manager there, though. But the players and the fans in particular still remember him as the world-class footballer. Mm-hmm. If you go on social media right now, and that's never wrong, there's excitement that Frank's going back to Chelsea because, quite frankly, this season, it can't go much worse, right? They're not going to be relegated. They might potentially go on a run and finish in the European spots, right? But I don't see the harm in this, is my point.
Yeah, there's probably not a lot of managers that were lining up for a pretty insane Chelsea job right now that would be willing to take it as a caretaker manager with that label. Managers who have already, managed in the Premier League, managers who already know the club in Chelsea, and as you mentioned, a manager who is beloved by Chelsea fans. They still really do appreciate Frank Lampard. So, from that standpoint, it does make a little bit of sense. You still see the reports out there that long-term Chelsea's eyeing people like Nagelsmann, potentially Pochettino. We'll see what happens there. Bigger names that, they have for long-term, and he's a guy who's just going to step in and just take them the rest of the way.
What if, though? What if they're going to run here, Albert? What if they win the Champions League, right? Let's just say that they win it and they finish 6th. They go on this run and get back in the European spots. They have to re-sign him then, don't they?
No. Remember when Di Matteo did that?
He came back though for a few weeks.
I don't see it happening. I don't think that this is going to be a good appointment by Chelsea. No. I understand that people seem to think, this is going to galvanize the club and the fans. The club and the fans wanted Frank Lampard out before. I can understand if he's never been there before, then the feel-good factor is actually there. But he's been there before. He's failed. They brought in another manager with the same squad, essentially, with a couple of upgrades, who won the Champions League. That's how you upgrade on a manager, not by doing this. But from Frank Lampard's point of view, this is fantastic. It's a free hit. Because if you go there, you can get your career back on track. You can potentially, who knows, help this Chelsea team to finish stronger in the Premier League and maybe a bit of a deep run in the Champions League. And it's going to help his CV and help him get another job. But for Chelsea, this makes no sense to me because it's just a lack of planning. You're telling your players, listen, don't get too used to this guy. He's in here now, but we're finding somebody else. So it tells you about certain players, like, why am I going to fight for a job when this guy's not even going to be here?
Let's hear now from the man himself. Frank Lampard spoke to the media.
It's a pretty easy decision for me. This is my club in terms of my playing career and having coached here before. So I have a lot of emotions and feelings towards the club. I'm also a very practical person, and when you become a manager, you understand that you don't manage your own club, the club that you say is your club forever. And obviously I've been on a different path since I left Chelsea. But to come back in a time where the club have asked me to come and take the role, of course that's the most important thing, but also with a belief that I can come and help the cause in this period to the end of the season. So I'm delighted to get that opportunity, and I want to be, I'm thankful for that, to the people that decided to give me that opportunity. I'm confident in myself. I have a good understanding of the squad. Of course, I've worked with a lot of them before, but also the training ground, the stadium, the fans, what Chelsea fans want, and I'll do my utmost in this period coming to give them what they want with my own hard work.
He knows how to get to the training ground, so that is a bonus.
That's good, yeah.
Right, that won't be an embarrassment, the new coach not knowing how to get there. But it's a valid point, I think, that you guys have made, though. When Graham Potter left, the speculation was that the players there wouldn't accept him, because who was Graham Potter, right? Well, they do at the very least respect Frank Lampard as the footballer, right? Just get them cohesively, because very quickly, Sarah, that's a good squad, right? That squad is not an 11-player squad. It shouldn't be anyway. Right? It's been a crazy year, 34 people in the first team squad. We know what happened there. If you can just manage the egos a little bit, you never know. It might be a surprise.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, listen, he has to go in and hopefully get a decent run in the UCL, and then also try and finish above 10th place. But look, they're playing Real Madrid, so I don't see that happening. And we also know Luis Enrique is in London right now having talks with Chelsea, and hopefully they want to sign him in the summer. So the whole situation is just really strange.
All they need is goals. That's the only thing that Chelsea needs. They're not that far away from winning games. They just don't have a striker.
Yeah, they score goals. Potter's still in charge.
Yes.
Their XG is ridiculous, right? The last number of games.
Yeah.
Right, so it's crazy. Conte was mentioned, by the way, as a return as well.
Good.
And you want quick effects right now, straight away, he'd be the choice, but that hasn't happened thus far. All right, when we come back to a team that has no disarray around it whatsoever, Liverpool, taking on Arsenal, of course, on Sunday.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
For that, we must win pretty much all the games, and the other teams above us must lose a lot of games. So that's not in our hands. I cannot say. What can I say about that? But it's not important. If we would be only motivated on the highest level, if somebody tells us, we have a chance for top 4, then if we are not 4th, then we will be. Then I want to be 5th. If we are not 5th, then we want to be 6th. So that's what I want to be. And for that, we have to win football games, because at the moment I don't even know where we are exactly. 8, 7, 9. I don't know. It's not interesting. We have another 10 games. To play, and the next one is Arsenal. Not the other 9 I'm not interested in, but the next one is Arsenal. So if we are difficult to beat against Arsenal, we can win this game. If not, Arsenal will just go over us.
Yeah, Arsenal up against Liverpool on Sunday. He seemed a bit flustered. That was after the 0-0 with Chelsea, where Chelsea should have won that game. And Graham Potter could have been in charge. Who knows what happened there. But he did seem flustered. He doesn't have any answers, it seems, right now, to this team. Usually I wouldn't say he's ever composed. He's full of emotion, is Jurgen Klopp. But hearing him speak recently, especially after that match there, he seems at a loss as to explain, okay, how do we fix this thing right now? And can we fix this thing with these players?
That's the big question. I don't think you can fix this thing with this particular group of players. Something we've talked about a lot is, as football in the Premier League has evolved, Liverpool haven't really got ahead of it. Right, they make the big splash and they get Darwin Nunez in, but they forget about their midfield, and they're relying still heavily on guys like Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson at fullback, obviously Virgil van Dijk and Matip in the middle. Those guys, while still quality footballers, I don't know if they can still play as big of a role as they have been, they've needed them to play this year. And that's, I think, sort of the product that we're getting. And also, yeah, we talk about this team's played a lot of football, right? Maybe that is part of it that's catching up to this team. But, Jurgen Klopp's there searching for answers. I personally don't think he's going to find any of those answers this season.
But can he change the system? I mean, they play a 4-3-3. There's this so-called heavy metal football, right? I mean, it's a cliche now, but you know how they play. He's not really changing that with these aging players right now. Now, he says, I can't change it. It's just who we are. It's what our DNA is. But when you look at a Jordan Henderson or a Fabinho, a James Milner, still getting big minutes, I'm not sure those players can play that system anymore.
I agree with Klopp in terms of playing that way, because that's what's made them successful. But you're correct. It's just certain players don't fit that mold anymore. And those are players that I jotted down here. Guys who have to go. Milner, Naby Keita, Fabinho, Oxlade-Chamberlain, and new guys need to come in, some fresher players. We're talking about off air, a Leicester City, they might have a firestorm, you never know. And two players that can come in that can help that type of midfield is a Maddison and a Tielemans. And this is looking really far ahead. But in terms of what Liverpool needs to do moving forward, I think it's to strengthen that midfield, major surgery as they're calling it. But at the same time, if you look at this season, injuries played such a huge factor. Virgil van Dijk was talking to Jaap Stam, I think it was on a podcast, and Jaap asked him, what's been the biggest issue with Liverpool this season? He goes, it's injuries. Listen to this. Total matches missed by injured players. Liverpool, 162. Behind them is Chelsea with 124. They had a lot of injuries, but 162 injured players missing games throughout this season. That's going to hurt any team. And I can understand the position that he's in. He's like, I don't know where we fit. I don't know what we're doing. Right. It's game by game. And he's never been in a position like this either, right?
And how many of those games were Arthur?
Yeah.
Well, there's another thing, right? They brought him in, right?
Yeah, but again, though, an example of the transfer policy not working last summer. It was a panic buy at the end of the window. Let's get in Arthur, who hasn't played in 2 years at Barcelona, right? If he's a guy you're going for in a panic situation, then no wonder they're struggling right now. Great managers find times to sell players at the right time. We've seen Jose Mourinho, Sir Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger do that. Why are they selling him? He's great. They just won a championship, right? Last year, Liverpool came, second in the Champions League, second in the league by a point. They won 2 cups, right? It would have been very difficult to then sell and break up that team, even though it's probably the right thing to do at the time. So I do have sympathy, I think, for Jurgen Klopp. He was in a tough situation. It could have been this historic season last year, one that we have never seen before from any club. Didn't quite reach those heights, but how do you then break up that team?
I think, I don't know, I'm almost at a loss for words because I do think that no one would break up that club at the end of last season. They almost had everything. Why would you? The football they were also playing was at a much higher level than what we're seeing now. But then over this, past year or like half a year, we've seen it kind of all crumble, whether it's injuries, whether it's bringing in players that aren't fitting in, whether it's players that are getting old. And so there's so many factors that play into it that I don't think anyone could have foreseen because it is a compilation of a bunch of different factors. It's not just one thing.
They
I totally agree.
They also lost, I think, their most important player.
Sadio Mane.
I think, in my opinion, he was Liverpool's most important player. With
a lot of people are saying that because people used to think like, Mohamed Salah, but once Mane left, there was a
right. But then
crumble.
He's going to Bayern Munich.
Yeah,
has hardly torn up there. He was hurt. Maybe he was on that cusp as well. It's not.
Maybe
he can continue.
The big disconnect is the midfield because keeper, you're set. The back four for next season: Robertson, Van Dijk, Konate, and Alexander-Arnold. That is a world-class
set,
back four. The midfield is dead. There's nothing there. The front three, you have it set. You have 4 or 5 guys in attack who can start for any team in the Premier League. There's a huge hole in the midfield, and I know it's begging for Jude Bellingham. It's going to be difficult to get a player like that, but that's what they need.
Maybe you can offer the Conference League. If everything goes according to plan, you can say, hey, Jude, listen, you can play the Conference League next year.
Here's an extra 100,000 on your wage bill.
Yeah, exactly. But he would be, he wouldn't be the solution. They need more than one player, but he'd be a massive step in the right direction. Arsenal is funny. As much as they've struggled, Liverpool, we've seen Arsenal, of course, rise and become this wonderful team. Are they going to win it or not? Well, listen, who knows? We discussed it on the Homestand show on Friday a lot, actually, where they're at. Klopp actually spoke about Arsenal and Arteta on the post-match report following the Chelsea game earlier this week.
If things don't go your way, you have to fight through this and make steps, and sometimes smaller ones, sometimes bigger ones, and tonight it was a smaller one. So now we have 2 days more time to prepare the next game. It will be a tough one against Arsenal, flying Arsenal. But this is a game we can build on, and that's what we will do.
He said flying Arsenal through gritted teeth there, like flying Arsenal. He's just killing him right now because they're Liverpool 4 years ago, it seems right now. Young team, dynamic, fun to watch, smashing teams, won 7 straight games, 23 goals in that span right now. They are the informed team. There's no way they drop points against Liverpool, is there?
There is.
Oh.
I agree.
Yeah, Mikey and I were actually talking about it off camera, but something, I don't know if it's a gut feeling, but Liverpool at home, we're talking about Anfield. It is one of the hardest places to play in the Premier League. So that's one. Arsenal also, they have one of the best away record. They have the best away record, sorry, but that also means that at times we might see them drop, and this could be one of those times. And specifically after that Manchester City game, Klopp said we cannot be embarrassed like this anymore. And what happened to Liverpool with Real Madrid at Anfield, they do not want that to happen again. This is a pride thing right now for Liverpool. Forget what they're fighting for because it's not much. I think this, for the fans and for the players, is all about pride.
They did beat Man United 7-0.
Exactly.
Why do we got to do that?
Not that long ago.
We didn't need to bring that up.
But that was a point where
that was the
a lot of
last
people
time they
thought,
won.
well, watch out. They're going to race to the top 4 now. Didn't happen. Didn't build off it.
No, but for Arsenal, like, my biggest concern is the rest of the way. In the Premier League, rest of the season, they have the second toughest schedule out of any other team. The toughest is Nottingham Forest.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's another concern. But Arsenal, they still have, as you mentioned, Liverpool. They have West Ham, who's okay. Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton. That's a tough schedule the rest of the way for Arsenal, and we know the way that Manchester City's playing, who, by the way, have one of the most favorable schedules the rest of the way. I think this race it's going to be tight. I wouldn't be surprised if Manchester City emerges champions.
Well, they could run the table now, and that might be enough, but they're also playing Bayern Munich in the Champions League, and they have an FA Cup semi-final to think about as well. So where are their priorities? I'll tell you where they are. They're in Europe.
Yeah.
Thing is, Pep can rest players in the league and still have an incredible world-class team, probably the deepest 11, in the league despite resting them. So it's going to be a great race down to the wire. But, there's so many great storylines, and Chelsea and Liverpool, as discussed so far, have been the biggest disappointment so far this season. Arsenal, the biggest story so far this season, maybe, in Manchester United. Well, we'll talk about them when we come back. And what does it mean to play without Casemiro and Eriksen? Ten Hag will tell us.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Welcome back to Room 442. Manchester United in a bit of a slump at the moment by their standards this season, but Marcus Rashford did score his 28th goal in all competitions earlier this week, the most by a Man United player since Robin van Persie in Sir Alex Ferguson's last season as manager. But is United too dependent on Marcus Rashford? Here's Erik ten Hag.
Are you concerned that you're perhaps too reliant on his goals?
Yeah, it's the truth, but also we know other players can score as well. Bruno can score a goal. Anthony Dos Santos scored already a couple of goals. Jadon Sancho can score a goal. Marcel Sabitzer can score a goal. So we have many more players across the squad who can score and already did score, but not in the... What you wanted as a squad is that you have two players who can score more than, say, 12, 15 goals a season.
It's one of those situations, right? I mean, when Messi scores 3,000 goals, Barca's too dependent on him. When Ronaldo scores 3,000 goals, Real Madrid's too dependent on him, right? It's kind of crazy. Rashford's had this brilliant season, this renaissance, this rebirth. They should be happy. Now, sure, get some, more scoring around him, but I don't think it's a problem, is it?
I think it's a bit of a problem. One of the most overrated aspects of Marcus Rashford's season so far this year is just his ability to stay healthy and his ability to stay on the pitch. When he's on the pitch, obviously Manchester United always have a threat towards goal, whether he's playing on the left wing, whether he's playing at striker. But it's the question mark of what happens when he goes down. When you look along that front line, Jadon Sancho is still trying to find his feet. Anthony, while he does a lot of good things around the ball, he doesn't have the nose for goal that I think you'd want out of an attacking player like that. And then Wout Weghorst has come in and...
Big Wout.
Let's just call him Big Wout. It hasn't worked out in a way I think Manchester United were hoping for from a goal-scoring standpoint. So you look at their attacking players, Bruno's a great creator, but there's not guys who know consistently how to put the ball in the back of the net for Manchester United. So Marcus Rashford's ability is really good. He's good to do that, but when he's not there, it is a question mark.
Didn't we have a bet? Who was it who'd score the most goals in the Premier League this season?
Cody Gakpo?
Or Wout Weghorst?
What's it at? It's probably pretty close, no?
In the Premier League?
In the Prem.
I don't think Wout has one in the Premier League.
I don't think he has either.
I don't think he
Gakpo's
has one.
got two
Our
or three
crack
now.
stat team is on it right
Yeah.
now. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have one in the Premier League.
No,
He
but
doesn't assist.
you're a big Bell
Definitely,
guy.
Yeah,
definitely
yeah, he
does.
connects the
He has
dots.
2
He's that
goals
guy.
in
You know,
the
flick ons,
Right.
bring downs. I'm all about it. But
Number 10?
yeah, number 10. In terms of United being too reliant on Rashford, in a way, yes, but you could say that about a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Go back to Spurs. Are they too reliant on Harry Kane, especially this season?
Yes.
Yeah.
With some not scoring. Right. You look at Manchester City. Are they too reliant on Erling Haaland's goals? Brentford, are they too reliant on Ivan Toney's goals? You have these goal scorers there to do what?
Score
Goals.
yeah.
So hopefully you have the rest of the team that can chip in here and there. I mean, obviously with Manchester United, you want a little bit more maybe from Bruno Fernandes. I know he mentioned Anthony there. He's not really scoring goals. Marcel
I was
Sabitzer,
waiting for
not really a goal scorer. But I think what he's trying to say is we are, but at the same time, we just need some of the players to chip in, and this won't even be a question.
They were unlucky though a bit though with Ale Garnacho because he was kind of coming into form
Yeah.
and coming into confidence, and then he got knocked with that injury.
Yeah.
But he could have been one of those guys that could have just helped a little bit with that because he was looking good.
I will say it'll be a concern next season with what you mentioned with Rashford's injury issues. I think you need a striker.
Well, the issue is it's not so much Rashford anyway, really. I mean,
Yeah.
he actually hasn't scored that many goals since the end of February. It's been the midfield, right? You're missing Christian Eriksen, and you'll be missing Casemiro as well. And if you don't believe me, ask Erik ten Hag.
How much have you missed Christian Eriksen and Casemiro's absence as well? How much have you felt that as a team?
He's had 2 quality players, and you know the midfield department games will be decided always in the midfield. So yeah, when you miss 2 quality players, it's clear. But you have a squad, and when you don't have them, you still have to win.
You do. You still got to win. But the bottom line is they're both fantastic players. Players that we didn't think would have quite the effect when they first signed that they have. And that is a dynamic central midfield partnership that has been missing in recent weeks.
Yeah, I mean the thing is with Casemiro, we knew how important he was to Real Madrid when he was there.
didn't.
I mean, I guess, but Real Madrid's midfield is still fantastic right now, to be fair.
It's
But
true.
I didn't think he was going to slot into Manchester United the way he did. It was almost like effortlessly the way he shifted from one club to another, and it's honestly between him and Eriksen as well. Another just an amazing story overall, but they are crucial to this side, and you can see how it's affecting the guys up front. They're not getting the service, they're not getting the creation, and it's affecting Manchester United severely.
If they're too reliant on anybody, it's being too reliant on Casemiro. in
Yeah,
my opinion.
for
They-
sure.
They cannot play the same without him. As good as Eriksen is, and Eriksen probably does a lot more in helping Bruno Fernandes score goals, because Bruno is not necessarily the one that needs to create as much with Christian Eriksen in the side. So maybe that's going to get an uptick in goals from him.
Yeah, no, Bruno Fernandes plays deeper when
Yeah.
Christian Eriksen's
Right.
not in the side, right? So that does help free him up. I think Christian Eriksen is a very good player, but we're doing him a favor by grouping him into the same category right now as Casemiro.
Oh, come on,
because
Mikey.
I think Manchester United were able to stabilize themselves after the loss of Christian Eriksen, right? They didn't really skip a beat, even though he did go down. And he is, he's a quality player when he's in the team. They haven't been able to do that with Casemiro, who formed a really good relationship with Fred when Christian Eriksen went down injured. Casemiro is irreplaceable right now for this Manchester United squad, but I mean, he's a world-class player. There's not many teams in the world that could lose a player like Casemiro and still not skip a beat. So it is what it is. We also have to remember this is the first year under Erik ten Hag. So you mentioned there you have a squad. Well, do Manchester United really have a squad that, Erik ten Hag envisions being a contender? I'm not sure they're quite there yet.
It's about next year, let's be honest here, right? The job this year is to finish in the top 4. That's the most important thing. And then they're going to spend a lot of money in the summer, probably up front, and probably on a player like Harry Kane. Let's get the Spurs, shall we? Spurs, Brighton, more Kane rumours this week, of course, about where he's going. Should he go to United? Should he go to the continent right now? You follow this very closely, Albert. Where are you at? Is he going to be a Spurs player next year?
As of right now, no. I don't. If I were to put myself in that position, and I look at the company that employs me, and the manager tells off the team and then gets fired the next day, and there's no one there to replace him, and now the fans and everyone around me wants the president out, and they're signing petitions, and there's no stability in the club, and the sporting director might be going to jail for some fraud stuff he's been doing with Juventus. You start looking around, you're like, I've been carrying this for too long. I can't deal with this. Do you know what anymore? I can stay in the Premier League, I can break records, and I can go to a team that's on the up in Manchester United, one of the biggest teams in the world. It's a no-brainer. It really, at this moment in time, it is a no-brainer. I think the only way that Kane can potentially stay at Spurs is if Mauricio Pochettino goes to Tottenham because of their relationship. But even then, I still think he probably moves on.
It's time, I think, isn't it? I mean, he's given everything to that team as well.
He has.
You can't criticize Harry Kane if he decides that, you know what, I do want trophies. You know, I've given you the goals. You haven't really backed me. I don't think there's going to be a Spurs fan out there. They might feel aggrieved, I mean, to a certain degree, but I don't think there's one Spurs fan that wouldn't understand why he makes a move to whoever it's going to be. United, maybe it's to the continent.
Yeah, I was going to say, where do you guys think he's going to go? Do you guys think it's United?
I think
Because
it's natural fit.
It is a natural fit, but United are also heavily linked with Victor Osimhen from Napoli.
Why not get both?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Easy.
And you get someone who plays with Rashford, who
well,
plays
that's
with
the
Sancho.
thing. I personally think United would do better with Harry Kane, of
Yeah.
course. English connection, already plays in the Prem.
Knows the league is
certified,
important, yeah.
Exactly.
Played with
But
Eriksen, can
there
drop
are-
into the midfield.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there are rumors. So I'm just devil's advocate. Where does Harry Kane go if it's not United?
If it's not Manchester United, oof.
What about Newcastle?
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they have the money. They can afford him.
Yeah.
Right? How many teams can afford Harry Kane? There's a handful of teams in the Premier League. Chelsea would be an option as well if they need a striker too.
Yeah.
Right? But does he want to stay in London? Because Spurs, Chelsea might not be a typical rivalry, but they are a rival because it's a London rivalry. Right? That would upset Spurs fans. If you're going to leave, bugger off up north somewhere.
Listen, if you're Harry Kane and it's Manchester and Newcastle, to me it's a no-brainer. You go to
Yeah, for
Manchester
sure.
United.
Manchester United.
Manchester United has everything in place.
Yeah.
I think they're missing one thing to truly be a title contender, and it's a striker.
Striker in depth. Striker.
Get Harry Kane in
for
that
sure.
team. If Harry Kane was in that team this season, they're in the race for the title at the moment. They really are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, here's some targets. You know, being mentioned. You mentioned Osimhen there. Okay. I love John Davis sneaking in there as well. Listen, he at this point, I don't think he's at the same level as a Kane or an Osimhen, obviously, but who knows in a couple of years' time. Tammy Abraham has been mentioned again, not as
Great
the main
season
man,
he's
but he's
having.
been brilliant at Roma for a couple of years now. Gonzalo Ramos, we saw him at the World Cup. The new Ronaldo for one game at least. Anyway, Lautaro Martinez is interesting, and Vlahovic, who's been linked with a lot of big clubs around Europe right now. You're a United fan. What would be your pick?
Harry Kane.
Yeah.
Harry Kane. For all the reasons that we listed about him being a good fit in the squad, but also, I know it's not my job and it really doesn't affect me whatsoever, but from a marketing angle, it's a no-brainer. You bring in England's captain to be the guy who's your savior up top. The storylines are there. He has a relationship already with a lot of guys in the team, and he's proven in the Premier League, which I think is such an underrated point. The Premier League is such a different league than all the other leagues out there, and the fact that Harry Kane has consistently been, if not the top goal scorer, then one of the top goal scorers in the Prem, it makes perfect sense for Harry Kane, for Manchester United to acquire Harry Kane.
And I don't even think it's the trophy drought that would push Harry Kane out of Tottenham. I think it's everything around Tottenham.
The noise around
Yeah.
it, yeah.
It wasn't that long ago where he committed his future to Tottenham, right?
Yeah. He
thought
wants
he
to
was
win
going to
there, but
Madrid.
it's not going to happen.
Well, we thought he was going to Man City a couple of years ago as well. It was apparently
And he
being
wanted
talked
it,
about.
right?
And
He wanted to go to City,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And in the end, it didn't happen. Ronaldo goes to United. Remember that crazy summer, wasn't it? and didn't quite work out the way people thought. None of those moves actually worked out for anyone,
No,
really.
it was Ronaldo to City at one point too.
That was.
yeah.
I honestly, I went to bed that night thinking I'll wake up the next morning to see Ronaldo in the blue of Man City. That was a crazy one. And who knows, had he had gone there,
Oh,
it'd be a very different story. I
It
think he'd
could
still
be.
be in the Premier League.
I think
think
so
so
as well.
too.
Yeah.
100%.
Pep would figure it out. All right, that was interesting.
Erling Haaland would be playing for Manchester.
Yeah, there you go.
Or Tottenham.
When we come back, it's what we call now the people segment, right?
The
It's
people
red card,
segment.
yellow card, play on, courtesy Mikey Singh.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Welcome back to Room 442. Now it's time for the people segment. Red card, yellow card, play on. Now, when the actual inventor of the segment coins it, the people segment, it means it's anything but the people segment.
I just
usually,
give the people what they want. I
apparently.
just give the people what they want.
Mikey, take it away.
Red card, yellow card. Everyone's favorite game. All right. Let's start with you, Sarah. Biggest news, obviously, Frank Lampard appointed at Chelsea. I'm saying he will become Chelsea's full-time manager.
I don't think so. Nope. It didn't work a couple years back. I don't think it's going to work now. I think they're going to get knocked out to Real Madrid in the Champions League, and 2 losses in 2 games. I don't even think they'll win one of those games. So that's going to be too tough that it doesn't matter what they do in the Prem. I think they'll get a couple wins. I think they might look like they got the ball rolling, but I don't think it's going to be enough that they're not going to want Julian Nagelsmann or Luis Enrique.
So there's no world out there, James. That
There's
we-
always
No,
a
I agree with Sarah. you
Hello.
know. Listen, if they win the Champions League, okay, but they're not going to win the Champions League. They're just not going to, right? And I think it'll be okay. I think they'll play fine. I think they get some wins, and he'll make some progress, and we'll see the likes of Mudryk finding his game. We'll see Mason Mount get back in that starting 11. It'll be okay. But not enough to convince Todd Bowley that he's the man. He wants Nagelsmann, he wants Enrique, whoever it's going to be, who don't want a short contract right now. They want a big contract in the summertime, so I just don't see it happening. But Frank will build his reputation and will get a job next year somewhere, if not in the Prem somewhere. So it's a good move, I think, for both sides.
You know, he's brought in as the caretaker manager right now, but Todd Bowley, to me, seems like a guy who just wakes up the next morning and completely changes his mind.
He's
Albert,
Abramovich 2.0, but with no brain, essentially. He's got the money. He makes ridiculous decisions. He brought in Potter, said it was a project. He's going to stick with Potter. A little bit of pressure comes on, and what happens? He fires him. And now he brings in Lampard, and I'm with both of these guys. There's no chance that he stays on as Chelsea manager. Not with Zidane out there, Pochettino, Nagelsmann, Brendan Rodgers, and who else is going to be out there. I can totally see
David Moyes.
David Moyes. Yeah, I could totally see a couple games in Chelsea naming the manager of the next season, but Lampard stays on until the end.
Yeah,
Which
maybe
is
even
ridiculous.
staying on at the club in some capacity as well until something else comes
This is
up.
good for his CV, but it's not a good
Yes.
decision by Chelsea.
One of the more underrated aspects of this whole deal too is Ashley Cole getting named to the training staff too.
I know John Terry was rumored as well.
John Terry, yeah.
3 of them.
I wonder if part of this deal is just the fact that they've brought so many players in, so many new faces that they needed to get back to sort of what the core of what Chelsea
Oh God,
was.
don't say it. Don't say DNA, please. You're gonna say DNA, aren't you?
Well, I wasn't, but now I'm going to the DNA
No,
of
no,
Chelsea
no, no,
Football
no.
Club.
God, I'm so sick of that term in football and sport. The DNA.
There had to be
It worked with all you got
something.
to Solskjaer,
bring
man,
it-
you didn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. You bring an unsuccessful manager to a successful club, and when you compare what success is to Chelsea since Mourinho, that's challenging for every single trophy, every single season. And you're bringing in a guy who already failed there. It makes no sense. It's just a ridiculous
It's a
decision.
safe move, though. I think they're not going to win anything. It's a safe move. It appeases the fans in the short term.
I don't think it does.
He won't break the club, right? He knows the DNA
Yeah,
of the
that's
club,
true.
how it works.
DNA.
He knows how to get to the training ground.
I hope they hire
He
him.
knows how to get to
It's
the
all
training
plus
ground.
with Frank.
Imagine they hire Mourinho.
I would put nothing past Todd
I would
Bowley.
love
Yeah.
that. Oh, I
Nothing
would love
past him.
that.
Can you imagine?
No.
I
I said before.
Conte,
Bring
man.
Conte back. I mentioned that, right? That has
Conte
been out
would
there.
be insane.
Well,
Like
man.
literally, because he is insane. Yep. What a year, though.
You guys might think it's a good hire, but at least it's a fantastic story. And at
Oh,
least
yeah,
we
thank
get
you,
to
Todd Bowley. You've
Great
been a breath of
content.
fresh air.
Yeah,
Sure.
great content. I don't know. Okay, moving on. Another fantastic story this year has been Newcastle's Alexander Isak. And I'm saying that he's going to become a Premier League star. Sarah, what do you think?
Deep breaths.
What's a star?
Well,
What does that entail?
that's a good question. Actually, I didn't think that through. But like,
Subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it?
one of the best top 5 strikers in the Premier League. I
20
think.
or more goals?
Yeah.
in the
So, yeah, 20 goal scorer in the Premier League, I think is safe to call a star. And
So
also,
what's a superstar? And what's a starlet?
Okay.
So we're putting him into like the Salah, Kane type of category in terms of goal scoring in the
Yeah.
Premier League.
That's
Right?
my-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
And they're superstars.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm gonna go with the yellow. I mean, he was phenomenal in Spain when he was at Real Sociedad. Like everybody knew who Alexander Isak was. He did really well there.
scored 20 goals for them.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only reason why I'm thinking, okay, he's done it in Spain, but Premier League right now is more competitive, and it's also much more kind of an aggressive type of football. Spanish football is
Yeah.
much more tactical. It's different, so it's harder.
Let me throw a stat at you.
Okay.
Goals per minute.
Yeah, just
Alexander Isak has the second best goals per minute in the
But
league
this is
season.
right
He's barely
since
played.
this is since when though?
The whole season.
he obviously arrived late, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Sorry, what was the stat?
Best goals per minute in the Premier League aside from Erling Haaland, of course.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like he's a great player. I know wasn't he coming off an injury just recently? He missed some international duty there, but I think he's great. I think the potential is there. I think it's a matter of whether he's going to climatize to the Prem like he did in La Liga, because he did it there. We've seen him do it at one of the top 3 leagues. Let's see if he can do it in the Prem. So I'll keep it at the yellow. I'd like to see it. I think he's a really fun player, but I'm not quite sold.
Yeah, 7 goals, 12 appearances. Albert, what do you think?
I'm a massive fan of his, but I'm gonna go red card. I don't think he gets to that level. That level is very difficult to get to. Not many players can score goals the way Erling Haaland does. Harry Kane, Mohamed Salah. That's a lot. I mean, at 23 years old, can he get to that point? Potentially. I also don't know how long he's actually going to be at Newcastle. Right? Let's say they do finish in the Champions League. He's probably still going to be there, but who else are they going to bring in?
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to turn into a depth player, which could be a real concern?
I'm going to play on. I think he's great. I think already he's a star. If you look at what he does and the numbers, not just the goals per 90, but the other attacking stats, he's in the top 3 in the league per 90 over this season. You know, his hold-up play is fantastic. He's great in the air. He's great at the ball at his feet. His runs are superb. He's got pace. He's got strength. I think he's got all the ingredients to being a top player in this league. And he's 23.
Just 23.
Give him a full season. I think he's going to be an absolute stud next year.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about Callum Wilson as the guy for Newcastle.
He's been
coming
usurped.
up, and
Yeah.
I think so. Moving on, we talked about this a little bit, but just let's get a black and white answer from you guys.
Newcastle.
The Premier League title will be decided on the final day of the season. Sharms.
That's great. Let's hope so.
Yeah.
It's been such a good season.
On goal difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? I'm going to say, I mean, really, you can't do anything but this, really, can you? Because we don't know. But every chance is going to go down to the wire because it's 8 points, 5 points with City win their game in hand. The way they're playing right now is discussed. Even with the Champions League on the horizon and the FA Cup semi-final, they could run the season. They've done it before. Arsenal with such a tough schedule. A couple of draws thrown in there, and they're right there. It's really close. I still think Arsenal will win. They'll find a way, but yeah, why not? Let's bring it down to the last game of the season.
Eight points?
8
right
points,
now?
but Man City have a game in hand.
And the goal differential.
And they play each other one more time.
Assume Man City
Yeah.
win that game.
I'm going to
Assume
say
5.
no, it's not. I think Man City are going to pass Arsenal and win the league before the end of the season.
Before the end of the
I
season.
really listen, and this is not the Spurs talking. If you watch Room 442 this whole season, I've been bigging up Arsenal like crazy. But they have Liverpool away. They have a dreadful record at Anfield. Imagine going to Newcastle away. They have
Right now.
City away. And Chelsea with Frank Lampard. Let's say they do get this bump with Frank.
Suddenly Frank
No, I'm just
Lampard.
saying, I know.
Suddenly he's
listen to what I'm
Matt
saying.
Busby.
Let's say they do get the bump, right? From
Yeah.
Lank Lampard, from Frank Lampard. That becomes a very difficult fixture, especially after dropping a few points before that.
They got Brighton too.
And Man City, 5 of their next 7 matches are against teams in the relegation race. Those will be difficult matches. Nothing is for sure in the Premier League. But the way Manchester City are playing right now and what Arsenal have to go through, I'm going to go Man City to win it before the end of the
Ask
season.
me if he's a Spurs fan. Come on. I'm going to go with
finishing in the top
James.
4.
I'm going to go. I want it to go until the final match. Like, I don't. Who cares? For whatever reason, let's go and let's just have a good run for the last, 8 games.
And Arsenal fans out there, like if it does go down to the final weekend, and if you do lose to City, don't be too disconsolate. I mean, it'll be devastating. I get that, but what a season it's been!
Unbelievable season.
What a
Yeah.
season it's been
Oh, it'll be
compared to
devastating.
where you've been the last decade.
Yeah.
Right? It's been fantastic.
What a season as a whole in the Premier League. though.
Well, imagine
So
the
many
relegation on the
stories.
final day
Yeah,
of the
I
season.
can't wait.
Yeah,
for that.
I nearly
grabs.
think that's also going to be.
And by the way, no William Saliba, which is massive.
No.
Yeah.
But massive.
Yeah.
Come
All
on.
right, stories.
Come on,
We've been
Arsenal.
talking about
Massive?
it.
Massive.
The best story in football this season has been our guys, Napoli. Sarah, what do you say?
Oh, I love Napoli. Play on. I'm just going to say play on because I absolutely love Napoli. I'm not even going to rack my brain. What a story. Napoli also haven't won the Scudetto since Maradona.
Yeah.
Like, we are talking 34, 35, around 35 years. And for them to be so dominant, crush the Scudetto in the Champions League quarterfinals.
A good bracket too.
Scoring golazos, and just a team that was also ripped apart last season, and a bunch of young new guys came in. The story is fantastic, and I love seeing, a really old memorable football team kind of come back into the center of attention, because I mean it makes me so happy. Like it's a great story.
I think it's honestly it's got to be Wout Weghorst, right? He goes from lost star Besiktas to a World Cup star, back to Manchester. No, I'm only kidding. It's absolutely Napoli. I was looking around at different leagues, and obviously Union Berlin had a pretty good run, but it looks like that's coming to an end. Still a great run. You have a couple of French teams in there, but it's Napoli. I mean, there's this story kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, if it wasn't for Napoli, I would say Arsenal, but Napoli have a chance at not only the Scudetto, but winning the Champions League. Incredible.
All right, I'm going to say this. Only because, okay, so Napoli's brilliant, right? On the pitch, they are the best story, right? It's so refreshing in the Serie A. It's great to see AC Milan last year bounce back, but to see Napoli, like you mentioned, the Maradona era, doing well. But there's been so many issues off the field now at Napoli. Big protests, verging on violent protests against ticket price increases. There's big problems there off the pitch at Napoli, which is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of shrouding the feel-good story around them right now. The fans, despite this great season, are sticking to their principles, mind you, but those ultras at Napoli they're pretty hardcore, to say the very, very least, right? So that's a shame.
Yeah, they stole Spalletti's car at one point last season.
He should lock it then, shouldn't he?
They said, you're going to give you your car back, but you got to leave. He didn't leave. But...
This is a trick question. You guys are all wrong. The best story was Lionel Messi winning a World Cup at Argentina.
I can't believe Ferrari didn't mention that, actually.
She's going to lose sleep over that today.
Yeah, she is. I can't believe it.
But very quickly, give me a quick answer here. I don't necessarily always agree with Gianni Infantino, but today I am.
Oof.
Today you were.
Today I am.
Today
I am. The FIFA World Cup should be played every 3 years. Sherms.
Is he saying it should be?
That's reportedly.
And you agree?
Reportedly.
Yeah, I'm leaving.
No, I'm sorry. Get out of here.
I don't know where he's going.
Mental.
What do you guys think?
Red card.
Two red.
I might even join Sharms. Just leave it the way it is, man. Why has it got to be every 3 years? Just leave it. Just leave it.
Well, it's not stupid. It's stupid as every 2 years, which Arsene Wenger's been pitching.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, he's got nothing to do. That's a problem.
He's bored, right?
Go do something.
He's
Go read a book.
His two choices each day are, which pair of white sneakers do I wear?
Yeah.
Right? and should it be 3 or 2 years for a World Cup?
I'm more concerned that Mikey agrees with him.
I know.
In what mind?
I do it for the content, guys. I do it for the content.
That's not a funny one. That is not funny.
Yanni, whatever his name is, Gianni Infantino.
Well, I just don't get it. 4 years works perfectly. What
is the benefit of doing it every 3 years?
Money.
Yeah, well, of course.
Today I feel greedy. That's all it is.
So when do you fit in the new FIFA Club World Cup? When do you fit that in?
Yeah, no kidding.
And the Copa Americas and Euros and
Super
AFCONs and qualifying. Yeah.
Finalissimas.
Oh boy.
The only thing I can think of, like when I was saying that, is just Infantino taking a selfie with our boy Pele, man.
With the coffin, you mean?
Oh, the coffin in the background.
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, we'll discuss more caskets. If I'm even here, I'm disgusted right now.
Caskets.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
All right, we'll give Mikey a chance to redeem himself before we close the show today. One more red card, yellow card. Please let it not be about FIFA.
Can we just rephrase that and just be like you were enjoying the segment and you just wanted to continue it because it was doing so well?
No.
Okay. Well, this one's not as fun just because of Sharms. Everybody's favorite team here, obviously, Toronto FC.
Mm-hmm.
Decent start to the season. Some positive signs. Right now they're sitting, I believe, in 9th in the Eastern Conference, just in a playoff spot. I'm saying TFC are going to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, 100%. Play on. They are. We all the previews, we said they may not just make the playoffs, they might go on a deep run in the playoffs. We know what this team has been assembled. It'll take some time. There are a couple of holes still, which might be addressed in June. Insigne's barely played, arguably the best player in MLS. Bernadetti's come as advertised once again. Sure, Michael Bradley's aging a little bit right now, but listen, the team is okay. They're going to grow. They're going to gel. They'll be just fine. The playoffs, of course.
Sarah?
Pretty confident.
I really am. I mean, listen, and I'm not an apologist to TFC. I am pretty honest.
I want to hear this one.
It's too early. It's way too early. I agree. There's a ton of injuries. We know that. No Insigne up front. They're struggling with Ayo, DeAndre Kerr. We don't know who's exactly fitting where, but the way they're playing football, it's not good enough. It's not. There's problems in the middle.
Who's becoming a TFC aficionado here? Nice.
Stop it. No, truly though. I mean, we've watched all 6 games so far this season, and it's not motivating me to think that they're going to. But I am giving them the benefit of the doubt that there are several injuries. But with the way they're playing right now, they don't deserve it.
Yeah,
they can't keep a lead. How are you going to go to playoffs like that? No, I don't know. We'll see. Bring them back.
It is early. You're right.
It's too
really
early.
yeah.
It's way too early.
I kind of want to go with you, but I'm going to go play on because with Bernadeschi, Insigne coming back, and Sean Johnson, that trifecta alone should get you into the playoffs, right? So now everyone else needs to pull their weight. Insigne is going to come back and hopefully do what he does. So playoffs should be a no-brainer.
Very quickly, I want to hear from the insider himself. What do you really think? Do you think they will make the playoffs?
Yeah, 9 teams make the playoffs this year in the Eastern Conference, right? And that's kind of the
come on, they got it.
9 out of 15 teams.
If they don't, man, heads will roll.
Yeah,
they can. I think they can also do without Insigne. To be honest, they have the ability.
They play pretty well without him.
Yeah, we'll find out. They better make the playoffs. That's a lot of money on that payroll. All right, we're out of time. Hope you enjoyed that. Enjoy all the games this weekend. We're back same time next week.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.